ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, who was a Deputy Minister of Power in the Mahama government, MP for Yapekos, or John Jinapor. You're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much.
What is this story that you're sharing with Ghanaians today?
You would recall that GNPC presented their work program to Parliament. And in the work program, they sought to seek approval to raise an amount of $620 million. The parliamentary resolution, which was made public, was categorical that Parliament could not just grant that approval, and that the details of the agreement, the terms and conditions, the structure, interest rate, and everything should be properly laid before Parliament in accordance with Article 181 of the Constitution for consideration. We have picked credible information with documentary evidence that, contrary to the resolution of Parliament at a meeting held on 14th September at the instance of the President, GNPC is proceeding to raise an amount of $431 million United States dollars without parliamentary approval. And we've made the agreement public. Read the entire agreement. Nowhere in that agreement is it mentioned that they will require parliamentary approval. And in such an agreement, I've been a minister before. If the parties intend that they will require or seek a parliamentary approval, it will be explicitly stated in the agreement. It is not there. Indeed, some board members have indicated that that is unconstitutional and that they will not be part of it. And I want to thank those board members. Moreover, this issue of JOHL, you recall that PIAC raised a serious issue about JOHL. When GNPC appeared before Parliament, we insisted that unless and until the shares of JOHL are transferred to GNPC as was intended, we will not approve their work program. They brought documents on the very last day Parliament was sitting, and the chairman can testify that indeed they have transferred the shares. So how come this same JOHL is being used today to raise 400 million and above? But even more importantly, the agreement states that the whole of our 10 fields, all the oil from the 10 fields, including royalties, will be mortgaged for the next 5.5 years to repay this facility at SOFR rate plus 9.5% interest. It says further that a minimum of 318 million barrels of oil would be dedicated for this loan facility. As we speak, GET Fund has been mortgaged. In fact, if you look at GET Fund's annual budget, it's virtually non-existent because this government has mortgaged it. As we speak, Growth Fund has been mortgaged. This government has been insisting on mortgaging our gold mineral resources. And today, as if that is not enough, after all this borrowing and taking this country into a state of bankruptcy, you still want to borrow over 400 million on the back of future oil receipts. I mean, how can you do this? Umaru, it's most unfortunate. I think that well-meaning Ghanaians should speak against this.
Is it a loan that is yet to be contracted or it has already been contracted?
I have a board memo and I'll share that with you. I'm keeping all these documents. I've released the agreement itself. I've released the parliamentary memo. I have a memo signed by the chief executive seeking for board approval to sign. That is where some of the board members raised issues and said this is unlawful. If we do not stop them in their track, they will do that. But even read the agreement very well. They are trying to retire another $150 million. It did not come to Parliament in accordance with Article 181. So they have a track record of sidestepping Parliament and going about an illegality. And we asked them, the 150, where is the parliamentary approval? When did you lay it before Parliament? Provide the evidence. These are serious matters, and I think that we ought to take them aside.
So I just wanted to be sure. Is it this 431 million? I just wanted to understand your information that you've gathered. Has this loan been contracted already? As in, have we received the money already, or preparations are now in place for that money?
It is before the board for final approval to sign off. And we owe it a duty to the people of Ghana to stop that. if we do not push them to pull the brakes, by next week, they will sign off this agreement and it will become binding on the state.
You are saying that Parliament is not aware. I'm looking at the order paper of 3rd August 2023. The beginning motion, it says that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 81, which require that no motion shall be debated until at least 48 hours have elapsed between the date on which notice of the motion is given and the date on which the motion is moved, the motion for the adoption of report of the Committee on Mines and Energy on the work program of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation for the year 2023 may be moved today. My understanding is that the chairman moved this motion and you seconded that motion, which motion encapsulated this particular arrangement. You are saying that it did not happen?
Precisely so. You are reinforcing my point. That Parliament considered this motion. The motion was moved. The motion was debated. I seconded the motion. Parliament adopted the committee's report. And the committee's report, if I may just use 30 seconds to quote, the committee recommends to GNPC to lay the terms and conditions of the intended loans for consideration of the House in accordance with Article 181 of the Constitution. This is the resolution from Parliament saying that, yes, you've come that you want an approval to borrow money, but we are redirecting you to go and bring all the details, lay it before Parliament for Parliament's consideration. So what you read reinforced my point that what they are doing today is illegal. It flies in the face of the resolution of Parliament, and that we must not allow that to persist.
Did you pass it pending the provision of that information, or you arrested the passage until the information is brought to you?
The resolution of Parliament says that bring all the details for consideration.
Good. So you did not adopt?
No. The adoption of the committee's recommendation is what I'm talking about. Parliament sits as a house. The committee brings a proposal. The GNPC wants a loan, but we are telling GNPC that no, bring the terms and conditions for Parliament to consider. And Parliament adopt that position. So that is Parliament's position. And the position of Parliament, based on the committee's report, is that GNPC should submit the terms and conditions of that loan agreement before Parliament. They have not done that.
So it effectively has not got parliamentary blessing, and so to the extent that it has not gotten parliamentary blessing, it becomes an illegality if it goes forth.
Absolutely.
So you're warning them. They have not done this, but you're asking them not to do it.
There are two issues there. The first one has to do with JOHL. How can JOHL, which you claim has been liquidated, with its shares transferred to S-Loco, still go ahead and executing agreement? That is serious. Secondly, why would you construct an agreement and in that agreement, not even one single line contemplate that you require parliamentary approval and that you only require board approval, and you proceed beyond that to send a memo to the board asking for the board to grant you approval to execute the agreement? We owe it a duty to stop this. And that's exactly what we are doing.
Do you know the connection of this $431 million facility to the Karpowership that you signed with the Turkish people some years, it was 2014 or 2013 or so, when you were as a ministry at the Ministry of Energy or Power?
I have the GNPC work program, and they stated that because they doubled the capacity of the Karpowership in 2017, as a result of the MPP government doubling the capacity, they are supposed to establish a guarantee B, not based on the first Karpower, based on the second Karpower. And I have that document that I'll share with you, signed by the chief executive.
We have spoken to the Energy Ministry. We've been given information off the record, as in I could not attribute it to anybody, but I could read it for you and ask you for your comment. The information is that your government at the time collateralized the GNPC resources first when you locked up $100 million of GNPC's cash to get the guarantee for the first Karpowership, that's the 225 megawatts, in Ghana in 2015, and that the current government, the Akufo-Addo government, improved the deal and returned GNPC's cash in return for Litasco issuing the guarantee and taking the liability on their balance sheet. So Litasco comes to step in the void that you had created. And it says that the badge was then replaced with the current 450 megawatts badge using the take or pay gas, which they signed, which is what you signed from the Sankofa oil field. This deal, according to the government officials, is to keep in all place and maintain stability, and that we cannot grow an economy on an unstable electricity platform. What is your comment on this?
Laughable. I'm not surprised that they are running away. If this is authentic, they will step forward and grant you the interview. We have 3 deputy ministers there. We have a full minister there. We have spokespersons there. They are running away. If they had the balls, they will step up and speak. 2, assuming without admitting.
Use a euphemism for that word so that it will sound parliamentary.
Sorry. I withdraw, Mr. Speaker, and I apologize.
I beg, I'm not number 3. I don't want trouble, yes. But proceed.
So let me deal with the substantive issue. Assuming without admitting that all what you've read is true. So Litasco steps in and you don't need parliamentary approval. You go and contract a loan facility without parliamentary approval. Is that good practice? Is that the best practice? And today you want to borrow over 400 million without parliamentary approval? And today's borrowing, if you read it, a chunk of it does not even go to Karpower. So this Karpower issue is a non-starter. I've read the current contract that they intend signing. A chunk of that money would go to this same finance minister to spend. And you want to mortgage our future oil receipts for 5.5 years, over 3 million barrels of oil every year at a rate of sulfur plus 9.5%. And you think because somebody signed a Karpower agreement, you won't come to parliament? You want to do it undercover? If these board members had not put Ghana first, and they decided that they will also be parochial, and they proceeded to execute this agreement, will it be good for the Republic of Ghana? If it is so good, why don't you bring it to parliament so that the people of Ghana can commend you for doing something good? This is nothing but a red herring.
Okay, can parliament order an institution like GNPC to bring an agreement of this nature before it for ratification, or you can only observe from afar and you would be helpless in this situation?
First of all, if parliament did not have that power, GNPC won't come to parliament.
No, I mean, now that you say they are doing this on the blind side of parliament, I'm asking
I'm building a point.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm building a point that they themselves recognize that they need some parliamentary approval. That's why they came to parliament in their work program. Parliament says, no, hold on, go and bring the details before we make a determination. And then the presidency calls them to a meeting in the presence of the finance minister, the chief of staff, secretary to president, GNPC officials, Litasco officials, Karpower officials. I have the minutes. And instruct them that they should proceed and go and execute the agreement. Without parliamentary approval, we must not allow this to happen. It's not even about a minority. And it's not even about Karpower. It's about doing what is right and proper. If you think what you are doing is good, if you think it's beneficial to the state, do so within the framework of the Constitution, so that all of us can scrutinize this agreement. If we had not intercepted this document, well, I tell you, they would have signed the standard.
We'll wait to see what the government will say. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, my brother.
That's the Member of Parliament for Yape Kuso and ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, John Jinapor.